All right, everybody, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive?
Always.
Today, we're going to be looking at something that I think a lot of people struggle with, and that is consistency, especially when it comes to social media.
Yeah, that's a big one.
It really is. It's one of those things that everybody knows they should do, but actually doing it, actually staying consistent,
Oh, it's so hard.
somewhat much easier said than done, right? So we're going to be looking at some excerpts for this text, the power of consistency in social media for your business,
Okay.
and kind of diving deep into, what are the actual benefits? Like, why should we bother being consistent? What can we do to help ourselves be more consistent?
Right.
And, what are some of the pitfalls to watch out for?
I like it.
So first off, I guess, why is consistency even important on social media? Like, we all know it is. But if you had to, like, convince somebody, what would you say?
Well, think about it this way. When you're scrolling through your feed, what makes you stop? I mean, what makes you actually pay attention to a certain brand or a certain post?
Hmm.
A lot of times it's because you recognize that name. You've seen it before. Maybe it's a logo or a style or even a certain type of content that they always put out. It's that familiarity that builds trust.
Yeah, it's like you start to feel like you know them a little bit, even if you've never actually met them in person.
Well, exactly. It's like, oh, hey, there's that bakery again with those amazing looking cupcakes, or that fitness coach with the super motivating workout tips. That consistency helps build that relationship with your audience.
Right. And the text talks about that, right? It mentions some pretty tangible benefits.
It does. It breaks it down into 5 key benefits: brand awareness, increasing engagement, establishing credibility, those algorithms, improving your ranking there, and then ultimately, like the holy grail, driving those sales and conversions.
So, like, actually seeing results in your business. It's not just about vanity metrics or getting a bunch of likes.
No, not at all. It's about building a sustainable online presence that actually translates to business growth. Think about it. If somebody sees your brand pop up consistently, they're more likely to remember you when they need what you're happening.
Right. It's like staying top of mind. Like, if you never talk to your friends, they might forget to invite you to things.
Yeah, and it's the same thing with your audience online.
I see what you mean. So consistency is kind of like that secret sauce for building brand awareness and recognition.
It really is. The more people see your brand, the more familiar they become with it, and the more likely they are to think of you when they're ready to make a purchase.
Makes sense. So how about engagement? How does being consistent actually help with getting people to interact with your content?
Well, it goes back to that relationship building thing we were talking about. When you're consistently showing up, providing valuable content, and interacting with your audience, they're more likely to respond in kind.
So it's not just about posting, it's about being present and engaging with the people who are already following you.
Exactly, like responding to comments, asking questions in your captions, running polls and quizzes. All that encourages people to participate and feel like they're part of a community.
Oh, that's a good point. It makes it feel more like a two-way conversation rather than just a company broadcasting their message.
Right. It's about fostering a genuine connection with your audience. And the more engaged they are, the more likely they are to share your content, spread the word, and ultimately become loyal customers.
That's awesome. And I imagine that ties into building credibility too, right? Like, if people see that you're constantly putting out good stuff and interacting with your audience, it makes you seem more trustworthy.
Totally. Consistency shows that you're committed to your brand and your audience. It builds trust and makes people more likely to believe in what you're saying.
Right. It's like you're walking the walk, not just talking the talk.
That's a good way to put it. And when people trust you, they're more likely to do business with you.
Absolutely. So that's brand awareness, engagement, credibility. What about algorithms? I feel like that's a whole other beast.
Oh, yeah, algorithms are the mysterious gatekeepers of social media, right?
Totally. It's like trying to crack a code sometimes.
But the good news is consistency is one of the key things they look for.
Really. So the more consistent we are, the more likely our content is to actually be seen.
Yep. When you post regularly, the algorithms recognize that you're an active and valuable contributor, and they're more likely to show your content to a wider audience.
Oh, that makes sense. It's like they're rewarding you for being a good social media citizen.
Exactly. So if you want to increase your reach and get your content seen by more people, consistency is key.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. Brand awareness, engagement, credibility, algorithms. But ultimately, it all comes down to one thing: sales and conversions. Like, how do we actually get people to buy our products or services?
Well, all those things we've been talking about play a role. When you're consistently building brand awareness, engaging your audience, establishing credibility, and getting your content seen by more people, it creates a perfect storm for driving sales and conversions.
Okay, I'm following you. So let's say I'm that yoga studio owner we talked about earlier. How does consistent posting actually lead to more people signing up for classes.
Well, imagine you're a potential customer who's interested in yoga. You start seeing this yoga studio pop up on your feed all the time. They're posting beautiful photos of their studio, sharing testimonials from happy clients, maybe even offering special promotions or discounts.
And because they're seeing it consistently, it starts to feel familiar and trustworthy.
Right, and the more they see it, the more likely they are to click through to the studio's website, check out their class schedule, and maybe even book a trial session.
It's like planting a seed and nurturing it over time. Eventually, it blossoms into a paying customer.
Exactly, and that's the power of consistency. It's not a quick fix, it's a long-term strategy that pays off over time.
That's amazing. So we've established that consistency is super important, but actually being consistent, that's a whole different ballgame, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's definitely one of the biggest challenges businesses face on social media.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. You've got a million other things to do, and it's so easy to just let social media slip to the bottom of the to-do list.
I hear you. It can feel overwhelming, especially when you're trying to juggle all the other aspects of running a business.
Right. And the text actually touches on that. It talks a lot about using professional social media management.
Yeah, the let the experts handle it approach, and there's definitely a lot of merit to that.
Yeah, especially if you're a larger business or you just don't have the time or expertise to manage it all yourself.
Right. But it's not always feasible for every business, especially those just starting out or working with limited budgets.
True. So what's the alternative? Like, what can smaller businesses do to be more consistent without breaking the bank?
Well, there are definitely some things you can do. One is to really focus on the platforms that matter most to your target audience. You don't have to be everywhere, just be where your customers are.
That's a good point. It's better to do one or two platforms really well than to spread yourself thin trying to be on everything.
Exactly. Another thing you can do is use scheduling tools. There are tons of great tools out there that allow you to plan and schedule your posts in advance so you're not scrambling to come up with content at the last minute.
Ooh, I love scheduling tools. They're like my secret weapon for staying organized.
They're lifesavers for sure. And then another tip is to batch create content. So, like, set aside a few hours each week to create a bunch of posts at once, and then you can just schedule them out over time.
That's so smart, kind of like meal prepping, but for social media.
Haha, exactly. It takes a little bit of planning up front, but it saves you so much time and stress in the long run.
I love it. So even if you can't afford to hire a whole team, there are still things you can do to be more consistent.
Absolutely. The key is to find what works best for your business and your budget and to commit to making it a priority.
Awesome. So before we wrap things up, any final words of wisdom for our listeners out there who are struggling with consistency?
I would say think about your biggest social media pain point. What's the one thing that's really holding you back? Is it lack of engagement, difficulty reaching new customers? Once you identify that hurdle, you can start crafting a consistent strategy to address it head on.
Great advice. And remember, everyone, consistency isn't about posting just for the sake of posting. It's about connecting with your audience, building trust, and achieving your business goals.
Right, like we've been saying, it's about showing up, being authentic, and providing value.
So go forth and be consistent, my friends. Thanks for joining us for another deep dive.
See you next time.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.